Welcome back. In this video, we're going to talk about Latinx and Chicanx epistemological frameworks. And if you remember, when we talked about epistemologies, and epistemology is the theory of knowledge. It is best thought of what we know and how we know it, right? So when you've existed in a colonial structure, the epistemologies, the modes of knowing, the way meaning is created, is often through a Eurocentric lens, right? It's through the colonizer's epistemological approach. Most all people of color have their own epistemologies, their own systems of knowledge, their own ways of knowing, things that they want to study that center them and their experiences. So there's a couple of lists that have been listed. These are not exhaustive. I don't want you to think that they are. This will just be an introduction. So LatCrit is Latina and Latina legal theory. It is a relatively recent genre of critical thinking and critical study. It includes critical legal studies, feminist legal theory, critical race theory. Critical race theory comes up a lot in the news. It's considered woke. Critical race feminism, Asian American legal scholarship, and queer theory. It is a critique of a vast group of socio-legal constructs of sex, gender, sexuality. They take that together with race, ethnicity, national origin, language, culture, and class relations. It is multidimensional. It is interlocking. They want to understand through the law how these categories, these social categories, sex, gender, sexuality, race, ethnicity, national origin, are linked and how they impact and inform people's lives. It was born out of a conversation that Latinx legal scholars were having in relation to critical race theory and its limitations. It is an interrogation and evaluation of the Euro-heteropatriarchy marked by capitalism, colonialism, homophobia, nativism, patriarchy, and white supremacy. And they argue that some of these things have been largely left unchallenged by critical legal scholars. They also say that LatCrit theory, it departs from critical race theory, and that it also is inclusive of queer theory and post-colonial theory as an integral part of its discourse. Third world feminism, we talked a little bit about this when we discussed feminism a couple of weeks back, so I'm not going to go too deep into it, but it comes from feeling alienated from mainstream white Western feminism that takes the methodologies, that takes the discourse from women of color and Black feminism, but oftentimes excludes their experiences from their major platform and agendas. So third world feminists include Latina women or Latina feminists, Black feminists, who are all invested in centering the experiences of women of color in their discourse. It develops in the 1970s when international feminist movements began to take shape. As countries like Asia, the continent of Africa, people from Latin American countries are fighting against colonialism, and women of color in the United States are emerging from the period of civil rights and are trying to fight for equality here in this country. We're seeing the collaborative nature of third world feminism emerge, and it is social justice movement to address and redress racism, classism, imperialism, along with sexism. They are challenging the confines of patriarchy and the overall oppression of all women, not just women of color, but for them, it felt important to center the experiences of women of color because feminism, mainstream feminism, had become dominated by a white middle-class woman's discourse and her needs, erasing the needs or ignoring the needs of all other folks. Chicana feminism and Mestiza consciousness is organized around resistance and spaces of liberation. It is founded in and through the Chicano movement of the late 1960s and 1970s to create a practice of resistance for Chicano women organizing within the margins, challenging the intersection, remember intersectionality, challenging the intersection of sexism, racism, classism, homophobia, and colonization. It is grounded in the intersectional discourse of Black feminism. They have a critique of power dynamics. They have a critique of dominant structures that oppress women, that disproportionately affect working class, poor, lower economic women. They're also invested in a view that is rooted in Mexican history, located at the intersection of colonialism, violence, discrimination, and racial and class hierarchies. Against the backdrop of Catholicism and language repression, all of these things are interconnected and challenge the existence of Chicana women. And so they are invested in a discourse that is rooted in the histories that interrogate, challenge, dismantle, and deconstruct those particular systems of power and domination. Mujerista discourses. To name oneself a mujerista, and please forgive my pronunciation if I'm pronouncing it wrong. As much as I want to speak Spanish, I know that my pronunciation is not very good. To name oneself is a powerful act. So to be a mujerista and to have a mujerista discourse is an act of empowerment. It is for Latino women living in the United States who are aware of sexism and ethnic prejudice and economic oppression, who use the language of mujerista to explain their faith and their role in the struggle for liberation, not as individual people, but as a part of the Latinx community. So they are building bridges, trying to develop a more communal effort of social justice and of peace. And then finally, quickly, Tocayo Epistemologies. This centers around men in the Latino Chicano community. From the things that I've located about it, it is centered on their testimonies and their experiences, their interconnectedness, the ways that they can connect with one another. Tocayo has indigenous roots in the Aztec language, that there is no counterpart to that particular term, and that it really is about carrying a kind of sameness and understanding one another through your connected identities, right? It is an identity politic. So I wanted to run across those for you. These are Latinx, Chicanx epistemological frameworks. They are modes of being and knowing, of studying and understanding the experiences of Latinx, Chicanx people in this country and outside of this country. So I'm going to end this one here in the interest of time.